As Thanksgiving approaches, we gather here in this ancient house of worship. We gather here to give thanks, to reflect, and to resolve to share whatever measure of bounty is ours. And we gather poignantly aware this season more than others, poignantly aware that we gather on and from the ancestral land of the Massachusetts tribal peoples, many of whom will mark a day of mourning rather than celebration on Thanksgiving. May we, knowing that we cannot change the past, resolve to do our part to change the future, to heal wounds, to redress wrongs as we seek to live in peace with all peoples, with all beings. Yes, in this world of joy and woe, woven fine, it is very good to be gathered once again, to grow our love with kindness and compassion. It's good to be here and here on the screens as well. We are gathered. Chalice lighter, Mr. Cornetta.
Good morning. What a beautiful day and a beautiful field of smiles behind masks. If only all bank robbers were this nice. I neglected to reply in time for my pronouns, and I apologize sincerely. I like the solidarity of pronouns for all. This morning, I would like to light our flaming chalice for the second principle, which I'll paraphrase best I can. Perhaps I even memorized it. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. One little part in the great big universe. I hope we invite that whole universe into our tables with a guest.
Thank you, Eric. Now our first hymn, which we invite you to turn to in your hymn books, number 68, and to listen to our choir sing and to hum or sing quietly for safety's sake as we listen and join in. Number 68, Come, Be Thankful People. I think you all can be seated up there. Well, thank you. It's so good to have our choir singing for us. Yeah. Yeah. Just wonderful. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, old timers and newcomers alike. I am Reverend Ken Reed Brown. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And it's good to see everybody, however frequently or infrequently you've been here. If you are new, we look forward to getting to know you. And you can begin to get to know us through our website, oldshipchurch.org, or simply by sticking around after the service if you're here in the building, and going outside where we will gather for a refreshing conversation, if not refreshments. And if you're on the screen, coffee hour or refreshing hour, well, of course, you can drink coffee on the screen. There you are. You can continue to be together on the Zoom call following for conversation. A couple of announcements. Today is our annual community day. Once again, we're not going to share the pizza lunch for safety's sake, but we are, and I'm with you. We're going to rake. All those who are able and willing, go home, get your rakes, or if you brought them. I'm wearing my jeans today, so I can pitch in on the front lawns of our grounds. And you may be able to buy a wreath as well. The wreaths are being sold to the left of the parish house this morning. It's beautiful old ship wreaths. Two additional announcements. One, Wednesday evening will be our annual community interfaith service of Thanksgiving, sponsored by the Hingham Hall Religious Leaders Association, but always held here. And they've given me the privilege of being our preacher this year for my last annual Interfaith service. The participants will be here, but for everyone else, I'm sad to say, again, for safety's sake, it will be on Zoom, available to everyone. The link will be in our newsletters. And finally, Merry Market is approaching. It will be a scaled down Merry Market, but plenty going on, the reads already. And we have a special request from the Merry Market Bake Table people, Liz Flint in particular. You can find her contact information in our weekly updates or online. We won't be serving food from the kitchen, so the bake table might be more popular than ever. This is your chance to have your wonderful baked good go somewhere else and be enjoyed. Last announcement, as I've been saying every week, for those who don't like steps or unsteady or can't use steps, we have the beautiful garden ramp, as we've been calling it, out that side. So please, nice and safe, steady decline on the way out. As we do each year at this time, we kick off, so to speak, our Guest at Your Table program, and Daveline Cooper has been leading this effort to support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee for a long time, and Daveline is at home and is going to have a few words that we will listen to. Daveline, thanks so much.
Good morning. Today we do kick off our annual Guest at Your Table program for supporting the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which we shorten to UUSC. During this season of gratitude and giving, we learn how UUSC works, how it is grounded in Unitarian Universalist values, and how it makes a difference in the lives of some of the most marginalized people in the world. Every year, we learn about 4 guests connected to UUSC partner organizations. And over the next several weeks, we will hear directly from this year's guest through videos they have recorded for us. The links to these videos will be posted in our weekly updates. And you may also learn more through the Stories of Hope booklet, which is linked in this week's Constant Contact. So this morning, and Ken has our boxes there, this morning I want to just introduce you briefly to this year's guest. So all 4 of them. So first is Axel Fuentes, who is the director of the Royal Community Workers Alliance, which is a grassroots organization based in Missouri, northern Missouri, that supports the rights of workers in the meat processing industry, an industry that is well known for unjust working conditions. Axel and his organization have been fighting for years to improve these conditions. Second is Myra Dagaipa, who is a leader from one of Burma's ethnic minority communities, who is making important connections among ethnic groups to work together for justice and accountability in Burma. Ethnic minorities in Burma have long endured violence and discrimination from the Burmese military. Maina Talia is a leader in the Kiowa Island Community Organization, which is helping to make an island in Fiji, you may never have heard of it, to become more climate resilient because climate change threatens to wipe it out. UUSC is the first funder for this organization, and it's critical for its work and for the future of the island. And finally, our final guest, Christian Guzman-Merlot, is co-director of FEM, an organization in rural Nicaragua, which is working to combat both widespread violence against women, as well as damaging farming practices promoted by multinational food companies, which cause both ecological damage and displace the traditional ways of life in farming in Nicaragua. So how do you welcome these guests into your home? Well, first of all, those gate boxes are at the back of the meeting house. Ken will show them there. And that's one way. However, you don't have to have a box to participate. In fact, somebody I know has had their children draw pictures of the guests and put them on the refrigerator. Or you can make Play-Doh figures of the guests, or you can simply write a check. So the idea for the next month is that really we will learn through the guests and understand how the world is affected by our generosity. So in December, UUSC is our special plate recipient, so you can make donations in December on the Old Ship website drop-down menu. Don't do it until December 1st. Otherwise, it's a free, the donations go to free period. You can also donate directly on the UUSC organization website, but be sure to indicate you're a member of Old Ship, because I want that credit for our banner awards, which are hanging over in Fellowship Hall. So I hate to say that, but I want people to know what we do for UUSC. Given COVID, we don't actually want you to return the boxes this year with money in them. So convert the cash to an online donation or a check to Old Ship with UUSC in the memo line. And one final note, donations of $150 or more are matched dollar for dollar by the UU congregation at Shelter Rock. So thank you in advance for making a difference in the world.
And thank you, Daveline. You may have noticed how quickly I was able to assemble this box. They come flat, you can assemble it. The power of this is you put it on your table, and whether you have kids in the household or not, and it's a reminder that every day you can have a guest at your table, and then make the contribution, as Daveline says, in a lump sum at some point during December. Thank you again, Daveline. Thank you, everybody, in advance for your guest generosity. Our time for all ages this morning will be offered by our interim religious education consultant, Deb Weiner. Some of you have met her, some of you only know her by name. And I think most of you by now know that I've given an announcement of my retirement as of July of 2022. And Deb's time for all ages will have some connection to that. So I don't know if that's a warning or an invitation. Deb, thanks so much for all you're doing and for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you. I wrote this story just for this occasion, and it's called Comings and Goings. The rabbits in the backyard saw it. The kids in the school next door sensed it. The people who came in for meetings could tell there were changes coming to the church. The church that looked like a sailing ship, a ship with so much history and so much love inside. And the winds that fill the sails of the ship can also bring change. People had grown used to the way things were in the church. There were wonderful stories to tell. There were grown-ups who had been little children when they first came in the doors and sat in the box pews. They had learned stories here, celebrated big occasions, and mourned the passing of wonderful people who, like the pillars that hold up this building, had also held up the community that gathered inside. But everything changes. The minister had been there to grow and change and love them. But those winds, the ones that fill sails on ships and move the autumn leaves around, those winds were blowing for him too. He loved the people. He loved the town. He loved those that had come before and those who had just come in the door. And the church was exploring who it would be in this new time. Maybe a new building that would be just right for this time and for these people. Maybe new ways of doing things. Maybe reaching out in different ways to say, we're here, come and join us. The minister knew it was time for a change, both for the church and for him. The people knew it too, but they also knew that it's hard to say goodbye. You see, endings are beginnings. One chapter ends and a new one's a page turn away. Yes, it was time. Still, people were worried. What will happen to us when the minister leaves? Who will remember me and my family? What other changes may be around the corner? But change is part of life. There are comings and goings every day, every minute. And with change comes discovery, new people, new stories. And the old stories, they don't go away. We make them live on. They get woven into the tapestry of who we are, of what we are. So here, in this church that looks like a ship, the stories will live. The children will continue to grow and discover who they are. And the minister will always love us, even after he says goodbye. The wise hawk sitting up in the tree knew the answer. And so did the rabbit family that had made their home in the backyard at the parish house. And the friendly minister, he knew it too. Churches are really about people and about different experiences, said a teenager. It will be an adventure, said one of the kids. And quietly, outside the windows of the church, the hawk in the tree looked in and knew that the people had learned something important. Home is where your friends are. Home is where you can find comfort. Home is knowing you are cared for. And the church that looks like a sailing ship, it will always be home because the church's people make it so. That's how comings and goings work. Time for change, time for wondering, time for learning, never the same. And always, always pointing the bow of the ship toward the soft and prevailing wind that will carry it and all the people riding in it toward the next sunrise. And that's the end of my story for today. Thank you for listening.
Why did we plan this? So I'd have to talk right afterwards. We come to our time of sharing joys, sorrows, and concerns. And I will light candles for each. Two of you have asked in advance for a candle. Gail Slater, a candle for all those traveling for Thanksgiving, whether by car, train, bus, plane. She says that they are safe and well when they're students and many, many others. And Carol Valentine is here. Asked for a candle of joy lit for her last foster child, baby James, who we so loved here for a long time, who was adopted formally, officially on Friday. The Kingston couple, Carol says, is thrilled to add him to their family. Well, who wouldn't be? We know James. And I would like to say that this candle is also for Carol. All that she did for James, who we did come to love so well here. Thank you, Carol, for giving us that gift. So those will be our first two candles this morning. And I'll light this candle. For you. For you. For you. Invite others. Yes. Congratulations, another great grand for you. Whatever the color of hair, it's a great gift. Yes. A candle for your breakfast club, Deb, and I guess for your addendum to your mom's, What happens when you have multiple generations? Yes. Oh, thank you, Brooke. A candle of joy for, I guess, for all of us and for my life's work. Thank you. Much appreciated, because I was a little sad. Yeah. Anyone else here? Yes. Can't see who that is. Cindy. Okay, masks are hard. A candle of concern for Lindsay Smith, shot by her abuser, a friend of your son's. Oh my goodness, we pray for her well-being and recovery in every way. Deb.
Families that want them and can take care of them. But when it's not possible, adoption is a great joy. And all of you know that that's not totally left to adopt enormously delightful when his child is.
Thank you, Deb. A candle for National Adoption Day and all that that entails, the gifts, the love, the sadness, the grief, all of it. Thank you. Abby.
As of the end of October, there have been 45 brutal murders so far in the U.S. Transgender and non-binary people, and the year is not over. It is the most have been shot.
Thank you, Abby. A candle, knowing that yesterday was Transgender Awareness Day and remembering in that context that this year, how many did you say? 45 transgender people have been murdered during this past year thus far. We hold them all in our hearts as we remember and resolve to be welcoming to all. Thank you. Yes, is that Derek? Hmm. Thank you, Derek. Reminder that yesterday was also International Children's Day. That kind of wraps up all these candles, 3 candles of recognition. And we think of all the children, as Derek says, particularly of oppressed peoples, Uyghurs and Palestinians and others, and what they're living with. How can we support them? A candle burns for all the children. Thank you. Eveline, are there any joys, sorrows, or concerns that have been entered into chat?
There are not this morning, Ken.
Well, our hearts are full with all that we've heard amidst our joys, sorrows, and concerns. And we know, too, that there are joys, sorrows, and concerns in our hearts this morning. And the candles burn for those as well. Now we sing whatever members of our youth or children are here this morning, sing them out and across the way along with their adult companions. Oh, now we may us hear the gospel everywhere, everywhere you. That anthem always goes to my heart. Thank you. We're invited to a time of meditation, of prayer, and gathered silence. We're invited to pause, to rest in this quiet time, to just sit, just breathe, simply share this time together. Perhaps reflecting as we do on this season of harvest, of changes, of thanksgiving. Perhaps pausing enough to feel our blessings, even for some of us in the midst of sorrow or challenge. That we might give thanks. Give thanks for this gathering, for this community of kindness and love, for the work we share to help and heal and transform. That we might be among those who make peace and seek justice. And to give prayerful thanks for the larger circles of life and love, all the circles of which we are a part, family, friends, community, nation, world, all beings on this earth, with prayers for the well-being of all, whatever color of skin, whatever gender, whatever nationality, whatever age, whatever political persuasion, prayers for the well-being of all beings, all this season and always, that all may be ever blessed. May we enter into contemplative, peaceful, prayerful silence. reader this morning is Judy Flaherty, coming from her accustomed pew. Thank you, Judy.
Good morning. Good morning. This morning's reading is from Gratefulness, the Heart of Prayer by Brother David Stendelrast. On a superficial level, the giving of thanks is merely a social convention. Its forms vary greatly. In some societies, the absence of all verbal expression indicates not a lack of gratitude, but rather a deeper awareness of mutual belonging than our society typically has. To the people in question, an expression like thank you would seem as inappropriate as tipping a family member would seem to us. The more we lose the sense of all belonging to one big family, the more we explicitly express that belonging when it is actualized in give and take. To give thanks means to give an expression to mutual belonging. Gratitude, thanksgiving, or genuine thanksgiving comes from the heart, where we get rooted in universal belonging. Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Judy. I have a little more to say about that reading later on. And thank you for now, Judy. We come to our time of offering. As most of you know by now, you have many ways to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and the ministries that we serve. You may leave an offering in one of the baskets at either entrance, at either exit as you go. And all of our, so you can contribute to the general well-being. But if you want to contribute to the free period online, you go to the donate link, pull down, it says free period. That's our November special plate offering. So however you give and however much you give, we are grateful for your generosity. Thank you in advance for that. And thank you also for those of you who bring food to our baskets, whether here or across the street. This too is a tangible way of reaching out, serving and helping and healing. Thank you.
Sing,
So good to have you back up there. I'll say it again. One of my jobs a little while out of college was working as an orderly, a patient care assistant, technically PCA, on the psychiatric ward of a general hospital on Long Island, where I had grown up. PCAs often spend a lot more time with the patients than doctors or nurses just by the nature of what they do. We were on the floor just about all the time, and the doctors and nurses had other, one patient at a time and so on. So we were on the floor a lot, and many of the same patients in this ward cycled in and out. So over time, we got to know them fairly well. Well, the time came when I decided to move on, and my last day arrived. I hadn't told any of the patients that I was leaving. Not until my last shift one evening when I mentioned it to one fellow, a fellow named Tony. I can still picture him very clearly. We were walking the halls. Most everybody was already asleep. It was a late shift. And I'd had plenty of conversations with Tony over the months. Can't recall what he said in response. It wasn't mean in any way, but whatever he said made clear to me that I had made a big mistake here. It hadn't occurred to me that it might matter to some of the men and women that I spent a lot of time with over these months and got to know, that it might matter to them that I'd be leaving. It hadn't occurred to me that maybe our relationship, such as it was, meant something to them. It hadn't occurred to me that maybe I meant something to them. I felt terrible. The message I'd sent by not telling anyone and only telling Tony at the last minute was also that they didn't matter much to me. Well, I learned something then about honoring relationships, honoring the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as we put it in our first Unitarian Universalist principle. So I don't think I'm making the same mistake 50 years later, giving us 8 months here. We will not have just a final shift. Here at First Parish Unitarian Universalist, we've got 8 months together. And it's not to say farewells. It's not that I'll be disappearing from the planet altogether. No, not even from Hingham, at least for a while. We're not going anywhere. But I won't be your minister. I won't be your minister as of July 31st, 2022. I won't be preaching each week or even attending worship. I won't be leading classes. Won't be officiating at your rites of passage. You will have another minister. First, an interim for some period of time, and then your 21st called minister. And we can still chat when we meet on the street or in the library, wherever. That's okay. But when it comes to pastoral care and all the other things that a minister does, that will be for someone else to do. And believe me, though it is clear, as Deb said in her story, thank you, Our Time for All Ages, it's clear to me personally that it's time to retire, and I laid a lot of that out in my letter to you this week. I will miss being your minister, being the minister of First Parish Unitarian Universalist here in Hingham. I will miss it. Miss sharing worship, leading classes, conversations of all kinds. I will miss you, each one of you. So I'm telling you now, instead of waiting for the final shift, because you matter a great deal to me. You do, every one of you, and your families, so on. And I am grateful beyond words to have been your minister for the past over 34 years and to still be your minister for more than the next 8 months. And gratitude, what would life be without gratitude? What would life be without grateful hearts? Brother David Steindl-Rast in that reading that Judy shared named so beautifully that gratitude, giving thanks, now hear his words again, giving thanks means to give expression to mutual belonging. And he went on. He said, genuine thanksgiving comes from the heart where we are rooted in universal belonging. Universal belonging, of course. We forget that too often, don't we? We're not those people. We're not the mosquitoes. Come on. Universal belonging. Now, I titled this sermon, Gratitude and Gravy. What can I mean by that? Particularly since I'm a vegetarian. And we usually think of gravy as something that's meat-based and goes on turkey or other things. But I learned not long ago, maybe some of you know, that in some American dialects, things like tomato sauce are called gravy also. Any of you grow up with that meaning? You're nodding your head, Eric, but yeah, okay. So anyway, gravy, a general term. So the point here is that whether we call it gravy or sauce, it may appear to be, look like it's an add-on, something extra, maybe not necessary, whether it comes to the turkey or to the pasta, just an extra, nice. And after all, you can have turkey without gravy. Maybe some of you like it better that way. And you can have pasta without gravy or sauce. Sometimes I do. But here's the thing. For me anyway, and I'll stick to the pasta, pasta always without sauce would be boring. And in fact, it would be a little less fulfilling and actually less nutritious. In other words, gravy, sauce is not really a completely dispensable extra. Not if you want a completely fulfilling meal, a more enjoyable, more nutritious meal. And the same goes, you see where I'm going here, the same goes for gratitude. And after all, what David Steindl-Rast was saying is that giving thanks, feeling grateful, expressing gratitude is far from a frill or extra, something to smooth over, make nice in relationships. No. Instead, gratitude is an expression of an utterly essential part of who we are as human beings, indeed as living beings, sharing our earth home, not only with 7 or so billion other human beings, but all kinds of beings with all life, universal belonging, he said, and he's right. Now, as we know, there are prayers of thanksgiving from the native peoples of this land and the indigenous peoples that express thanks for just about all manner of blessings and beings. We could do worse than to recite such a prayer at our Thanksgiving tables this week. Robin Wall Kimmerer, in a book I've quoted from often this year, in her book Braiding Sweetgrass, shares a traditional Thanksgiving address from the Onondaga people. She herself is a member of the Potawatomi tribe of people. But this is from the Onondagas. It's long. It would take us all morning here to share the whole of it. It ought to be long, right? In any case, it includes in great and beautiful detail. Here's just the briefest of summaries. Thanks for all people, for our Mother Earth. Thanks for all the animals, begin naming them, for all the birds, and so on, for the 4 winds, for Brother Sun, for Grandmother Moon, for all the stars, for caring teachers, and for the Creator, the Great Spirit. And finally, in this long, appropriately long Thanksgiving address, comes this at the end of the address. In the Onondaga language, of course, which I don't know, but here's the translation. Of all the things we have named, it is not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. And now our minds are one. That's beautiful. And all this brings me back to you and to the ministry we've shared since 1987. When I complete my part of this shared ministry next July 31st, my heart will be overflowing. I know it already kind of is, with all sorts of emotions, including emotions of grief and sadness. Brooke noticed that, maybe you all did. But isn't grief itself, I don't know what that was. What'd I say? Isn't grief itself often overflowing with gratitude? Those of us who were at Ernie Sophus's service yesterday, there was so much gratitude in the room along with so much grief. Of course. We don't grieve unless we've loved, unless we've appreciated the blessings. And so, of course, gratitude with grief. So yeah, I'm sad to think of leaving you as your minister. And, not but, and I will be ever grateful for having the privilege of having been your minister, serving our parish, serving our Unitarian Universalist faith all these years. Grateful for innumerable conversations about things that matter. My mantra, as you know, from the very beginning, all these years, whether in a class or a group where the conversation leads in directions no one could have predicted. So you talk about becoming one mind and ideas that are exciting and sometimes healing and sometimes transformative. Oh my goodness. Or in a meeting to get something done, where the hands become as one, where ideas for how to get this thing done emerge that no one came coming into the meeting, which may be contentious at some point, but in the end, you figure something out. Or a potluck dinner or coffee hour where seemingly random conversation suddenly drops down, catches fire into something deeper. Or when counseling with one of you or one of your families, as I've done so many times over the years, in the midst of crisis or grief, or sitting at bedside near the end of life, when the verbal conversation ends, and then maybe another sort of conversation begins, which might just be the most important conversation of all as we sit. Yet whatever the form or purpose of our conversations all these years, certainly my hope that over these years, such conversations have helped each and all of us, and I most certainly include myself in this, have helped us to shape our lives into lives that matter a bit more than they might have otherwise, have in short helped us to grow more, What are we growing here? Well, love, I heard love, thank you. I thought I'd given you enough of a clue. To grow more love. That's where all these conversations lead to eventually, if we're listening carefully, so that we might better care for one another and help to heal the world. Further, not incidentally, I'm grateful for the just plain fun, like the fun we just had that minute, and pleasure we take in each other's company, sometimes nothing weighty or deep, just a delight in community, belonging, right? With people who care about each other. And not incidentally whatsoever, I'm grateful that you've supported me and stuck with me right from the beginning when I was pretty new at this, and all the way through. If I've said or done something or not said or not done something that I needed to, but you've stayed with me and with each other. Thank you for it all. But I've not left yet. We have 8 more months together. Let's savor these months like the end of a piece of music when you know it's coming, wakes you up. Let's savor these months together as we continue to build for the future of this congregation and the future of life, our part in it, in the midst of challenges here that offer great opportunities, whether in regard to our parish house or religious education or the range of social issues, I won't start to name them, that we strive to meet and the needs that we strive to meet in the wider community. And you all bring so much to this work and to this time and to time to come, this shared work of ministry. First of all, with the gift that each one of you is, one of us, along with our, for now, and your shared commitment to our shared ministries and our shared values and principles. It is all such good work. Paraphrasing Mary Oliver, what else would we choose to do with our wild and precious lives? Blessed be and amen. Well, you know what I'm going to say. Flames are easy to extinguish. We do not and cannot extinguish the love with which they were lit. We carry it with us wherever we go. Our closing hymn, again, our choir will share it with us, and we're invited to sing very quietly. Please feel free to sing quietly. Number 67, or just listen and follow along. We sing now together, number 67. Friends, the hours of religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. So may it be, blessed be, and amen.